It's the day after Easter, so I thought it'd be a good time to talk about the resurrection, which of course happened on Easter Sunday. Although a lot of us are a bit ropey these days about what did and didn't happen in Christianity. And well, for Christianity, it's kind of an axial event. It's a universe-shaking event. Yeah. Um, the gates of hell were opened. Easter Saturday is the harrowing of hell when Christ, after he died, pegged it on the cross. He went down to hell, and redemption became possible for all those souls in hell for the first time in history. And of course, Christ was a unique incarnation. All of those sorts of things. Well, of course, we have our own death and resurrection in astrology. We have Persephone, who went to the underworld and eventually re-emerged, resurrected. That was long before the crucifixion story, and even longer before that, in Mesopotamian times. You get the descent of Inanna into the underworld, where she's killed and hung, rotting on a meat hook. But eventually Shira emerges renewed. So it's an old myth. And I'm not necessarily having a go at Christianity for treating theirs as unique and literal. Because I think I invented a saying, which is treat your myths as facts and your facts as myths. In other words, treat those stories that really speak to you as true, as real. Because your imagination does, your unconscious does. And treat your facts as myths. In other words, don't take them literally, treat them as stories. So we live in an age of facts. Facts are what are true and real, and the rest are just nice stories we'll put over there, and we'll be a bit patronising about them because we're terribly open to them, because of course we're open-minded. But really, what happened is this. Really what happened is you had a big bang, and then you had evolution, etc. That's what really happened, and the rest is myth. Well, no, that is just story too. Good story in many ways, but it's story because, of course, we don't know where this world came from. We don't know where consciousness came from. We don't know its nature. It's a deep mystery. And we live close to that mystery. That's the beauty of life, is when we move close to that mystery. That's when the meaning and the joy opens up. But when you get further from that meaning, and what takes you further from that meaning is thinking you know what happened, when we don't. Why there should be something rather than nothing, the question that many children ask. Yeah, why is there something rather than nothing? We don't know. It's kind of dreamt into being. Why? What's the purpose of humanity? We don't know. It's this thing we live close to. It's a mystery. So it took me years because it went deep. The fact that science is what really happened and everything else is just a story. That went deep in me. So I've had to really hammer at that one. And being able to see the world as an ongoing dreaming is the way through, because I think that's the better perspective. The in a way, consciousness is primary and matter is secondary, although you can't really separate them. Anyway, back to the resurrection, because so that's the way to treat it, as a story, as a myth, yeah, but as real and as true. So the Christian one, the resurrection, okay, part of their story is that it's unique and that at last, for mankind, resurrection was possible. Okay, that's if they're myths, if they're mythological being, their imagination wants to take it like that. Fine, I can think that if that is true. Okay, this is a unique event, this unique incarnation. Fine, yeah. But I can also think about it in other ways that doesn't make it any less real or less true. I think that's the way to treat it. Because we need to go, oh, it's ridiculous. They think, he's the unique incarnation of God. But no, it's a true myth. Yeah, it can be true. But then we also have, in astrology, our one, of course, is the myth of Persephone. And that possibility of rebirth. death and rebirth and renewal. Because what happened in the resurrection, I think the significance of it is that we can experience the suffering in life, we can experience the darkness in life, but in those depths we always also find redemption. We find the sacred. We find this spirit in us which is eternally renewing. Crack where the light gets in, all of that. Well, it's not just a crack where the light gets in. It's a deep process. It's a deep journey, and this is what happens under Pluto transits. This is something Scorpio knows about. Persephone was abducted by Pluto. Well, in fact, by Hades, because Persephone is the Roman name and Pluto is the Greek name, but I like to muddle them up. Should be Proserpina and Hades. Is that right? I can't. Proserpina and no, Persephone and Hades. Doesn't matter. Pluto fancied her. Yeah. He had his eye on her. He's used to getting what he wanted, and he couldn't persuade her mother, who was Ceres, the nature goddess, to let her go. So he abducted her, and he raped her, and he married her. And Ceres was distraught, didn't know what had happened to her daughter, eventually finds out by the agency of Mercury, and a deal is done, whereby Persephone is allowed back for 6 months of the year. And because Ceres was a nature goddess, the world had turned to winter that had only ever been summer before then. But now you get summer and winter. And summer is when her daughter comes back for 6 months. So what happened is that Persephone grew up. She turned from a girl to an adult, and it had to happen. Her mother was resisting it. She was like the devouring mother archetype, which is ancient. Freud pointed this one out. Yeah, is when mothers, they do a wonderful job, but then they can't let go. And sometimes the universe needs to get in the way. Pluto needs to get in the way and make it happen. And you see it. You see it with people who sometimes you see these men and they're still with their mums. Yeah. And their mums, well, they're part of it as well. Yeah. So nature forces us to move on to the next stage, and that keeps happening in life. This is the principle of resurrection. Yeah. And the old has to go. So we often have to lose that which is most dear to us because it's no longer its time. We might lose people, yeah, career, homes, health, all of these things, so that there can eventually be renewal. And we also understand suffering, and that's a deep thing. And it's not just Pluto that does this, Neptune does it as well. We don't have a myth for that, but I think the Tempest, where you hear about, I think, Miranda's father who drowned on the way in, yeah, or someone's father, I can never remember why, but Ariel says, "Full fathoms 5 thy father lies, of his bones are coral made. Those are pearls that were his eyes." So you get drowned, and gradually these new gifts emerge out of that drowning. So it's the same idea, it's the same myth as Pluto. There's a death and a resurrection. One is an abduction, the other is a drowning. And we reclaim or claim, in a way, for the first time, something that was always there, this divine source in us, this source of life that is our own, but is yet belongs to the universe. It's a kind of Leo principle. So this is resurrection for astrologers. And we don't need to deny the Christian one, but we need to contextualize it. See it alongside what is our one, the Pluto one, and if you like, the Neptune one, and also Inanna, even older. It's interesting, the Inanna one and the Pluto one, which are older, it's both females who go through this journey to hell and back. Whereas in Christianity, it's a male who does that. I don't know if there's any significance in that. But in a way, that descent is a feminine thing because you're having to surrender and to open up. It's the feminine principle. And in that surrendering, you see gold. Bilbo stealing the treasure from the dragon. Okay,